Well, good morning, everybody. It's early Friday morning, well, just before 7 a.m. Here to troubleshoot a problem that cropped up yesterday at 4:30, just as I was getting ready to go home. Switches started dropping all over the plant. People were complaining of their phones dropping out. So I went and uninstalled a switch that I had just installed, with the thought being, what's the last thing I did? And let's try to undo that. And that switch was the last thing we had installed. I had installed it. So I went and pulled the fiber cables leading up to it, and all my switches all over the plant started coming back, and phones started working again. And I checked, it was not a spanning tree issue. So this morning I am going to continue troubleshooting that issue. So I'm headed back down to the distribution switch in the basement. I'm going to start from there and see what I can figure out. So stay tuned. So again, just a little more about what was going on yesterday. I'm sorry, I'm in a noisy room, so I'm going to have to almost yell here. Is what I noticed, it was all the switches over here that were connected to this distribution switch that were going up and down. And it was only devices connected to these switches that were reporting problems with phones, wireless connectivity, things like that. So again, I started trying to think, well, what was the last thing I did? Well, really, the last thing I did was set up spanning tree. So I checked spanning tree, no issues there. We weren't seeing any topology changes. And no other issues that I could detect. So the only other thing I did was I added a new switch. So that new switch is right there. So, and he's also connected to that distribution switch here in the MDF. So I got on that switch, checked for spanning tree, no problem. I mean, it was responding normally. I could SSH into it. But I was still kind of suspicious of it. I did see on one link there were some CRC errors and some link transitions. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just disable that interface on this switch, and instead of doing it on this switch like I should have. But I went ahead and disabled it over here because I had a redundant, Cisco guys call it a trunk and I call it a lag. So I had two redundant ports going back over here to the distribution switch. And so I disabled the one that I was seeing link flaps on, or CRC errors, and the switch just became unreachable. But the problem continued. So I ran across the campus, well, walked very quickly, the walk of shame, and came over here to this guy and physically disconnected the links going out to this guy, which is in a different building. As soon as I did that, everything turned green, as you can see here, which means all the errors stopped. Phones started registering again, wireless was working again, everybody was happy. I just left it as is and then headed home. So I am going to continue troubleshooting this. I think the first thing I'm going to try to do is just replace the GBICs that are in the distribution switch here. There were just some old ones that I had on hand, so I'm going to put some new ones in there. And I'm also going to go out and replace the GBICs in this guy. And once I've done that, then I'm going to get engineering. I'm still not going to connect it yet. I'm going to get engineering to come help me out, and we're going to ring out the fiber cables going between these two switches. So I'm going to go on doing that, and I'll keep you posted. Okay, so what I've done so far is I've connected up one leg of my lag to the problem switch. It's up, passive traffic, only one fiber. This is the other leg, and I have not connected the fiber. It's still dangling down there. I'm going to leave that for now. And I can see that I changed my zoom level, sorry about that, but let's change it back. I can see that my problem switch from yesterday is now up. It's showing one link is down, that's the one I disabled. and come back over here, and everything looks pretty good so far. I don't see any switches dropping off like I did yesterday so far. I'm going to leave it like this for a little bit, and I'm going to check the error counters on that switch right there that just turned yellow, and we'll see what it's doing. Alright, so I was eventually able to get into my my problem switch. Excuse me. But it still kept bouncing up and down. It wasn't causing the same network issues we were seeing yesterday, but it was definitely still bouncing. So while it was up, I went ahead and rebooted it, and then plugged the fiber cable back in over here on this side rather than this side, which is how I had it plugged when I got in this morning. Because I hadn't saved the config on my other switch, so if I just rebooted it, then the disabling the port would be, would be lost, and it would just come back up and under the last saved config, obviously. So I plugged this fiber in while the switch was rebooting, unplugged this other one, and it came up. While it was doing that, I was checking these ports here on this switch, and I'm not really seeing too many errors. I mean, there was one undersized packet on this module over here, but I'm not seeing a ton of collisions or CRC errors is what I was really looking for. The other interface is completely clean. I checked the other stats too, and they all look pretty good as well. So I don't think the issue is on this side. So I have now got back into this switch. I was checking through the log. There's really not a whole lot there. Just some normal reboot messages and ports coming up message. These are the messages left over from yesterday when it was disconnected and it couldn't get a hold of the SMTP server. Pretty much expected. So I'm going to do show. Sorry, I'm trying to type and do this at the same time. Port 51. XE. See if we get any receive errors. It's active, and this command constantly updates, so we'd see them if they're coming in. There's no receive errors. Oops, wrong button. There we go. Let's do this again. Look for transmit errors. Looks pretty clean. So I'm just going to sit here and watch the receive errors for a while, since that's what I was getting. I was getting CRC errors on the other port, so we may troubleshoot the other port once my engineering buddy gets in. So I'm going to watch this for a while, and we'll get back to you. Good morning, everybody. You can see I am no longer at work. It is, in fact, the next day, and I am coming to you from my travel trailer that I had to do a little work on. So I started making that video on a Friday. Seemed like a nice quiet day to do a little troubleshooting, and no, it wasn't. So we got to do a little troubleshooting on that switch in the morning, and we got to the point to, as I said in the earlier part of the video, we were going to ring out the fiber cables, which we did. And we finally got the switch back up. In the last video, the switch had come up, but you saw it turn yellow, which means it was starting to generate some errors. And very soon after that, it just dropped offline completely. So I pulled the fiber, got my engineering guy, Jose. Love you, Jose. And we started troubleshooting, ringing out the fiber. So we found both fiber pairs were good on both links. So I replaced the GBICs in the distribution switch. I did not replace them in the problem switch. But the switch seemed to come up and stay stable. So we plugged both GBICs into the lag. The lag came up and was stable. And I watched it for a while, declared victory, and hey, we're good. But much later in the day, I noticed that one of the links was down. The switch was up, but one of the links was down. So we've still got some more work to do. I've connected through the VPN on the laptop, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. What happens is if I bring the interface up, the lag will not form, and I will not get an aggregate link on both sides. It worked for a while yesterday and then just stopped. So what I'm guessing is that port 52 here on this new switch, the port is bad, or more likely the GBIC is bad. We checked out the fiber, and it looks pretty good. I mean, from we didn't see dim lights. We just shone light through it, and the light was bright on both ends. So I don't think it's a fiber issue. But I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to say set port enable TG.8.9. So now if I show, I already did that. Show the status. You see there, it's TG8.9 is up, but it's not dormant, which it should be if the lag formed. And if I show the lag status, there's still only one port attached. Over here, you can see that the second port came active and looks good. But if I show the aggregate link state over here, it's just active, but it's not an aggregate member. So I think my next step is going to be to replace port 52, the GBIC on port 52. And I'm going to go ahead and disable this port so that I'm on call this weekend and I want a nice quiet weekend. So I think I'm going to keep this disabled until I get back to work on Monday. So let's just make sure the port is down. That's good. Come over here. And okay, it's gone back to a ready state, which means that it's not seeing anything on the other end. So, and just real quick, let's check for any transmit errors. That's clean. And we'll check for some receive errors. That's clean. I'm not seeing the CRC errors that I was originally. So yeah, I guess what I'm going to do, actually what I'm going to do is shotgun this. I am going to replace port 52 on this side. And then I'm going to, the GBIC that is. And then I'm going to come over here and replace the GBIC in TG8.9, just to be sure I get it all taken care of. So I think this video is long enough. I'm going to keep troubleshooting this, and in the next video, I'll just let you know what I found out, and we'll go from there. So I'll just do a recap video, and hopefully somebody will learn something. Oh, hopefully especially me. We'll catch you guys next time.